Hello and welcome to the Zero Lab. Today we're going to be talking about Chien-Pao Excalibur in the post-rotation Temporal Forces meta. So Chien-Pao Excalibur is a deck that has seen some success over the last several months. It was released in Paldea Evolved and kind of was off to a rocky start. People didn't really know how to play it. There was arguments whether you play it with Palkia, whether you play it with Arceus. And then finally, the Canadians cracked the code and realized that if you play it with a B-Barrel line, that's the most consistent the deck's going to be. Recently, the deck won the Dortmund Regional in the hands of Owen Kammerman. And looking forward to next format, the deck, to me, seems like it's in a really strong spot with what it gains and with the few things that it loses. So let's dive in to a recent City League winning deck list. So here is the list that recently won a City League. Let's start by talking about what this deck lost and what this deck gained. So the two notable losses from the deck were Battle VIP Pass and Cross Switcher. Let's talk about Battle VIP Pass. Battle VIP Pass is a pretty controversial card. It allows you to search your deck for two basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, but you can only use it on your first turn of the game. And so if you were unable to find your Battle VIP passes on your first turn, they're dead cards for the rest of the game. So having Buddy Pofin as its replacement, which we gain in Temporal Forces, is something that the deck really likes to see. The downside to Buddy Pofin, which reads search your deck for up to two basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less and put them onto your bench, is that you play a couple Pokemon that you'd like to find that have more than 70 HP. You have your Chien-Pao EX that has 220 HP, along with the Radiant Greninja and the Iron Handz EX. So even though you can't find these Pokemon with your Buddy Pofins, the fact that you still can use it after your first turn of the game means that this is a very strong card for this deck. Before, the deck was very reliant on having a strong turn one, and if you didn't have a strong turn one, a lot of times you would just get blown out of the water. But being able to find your Bidoofs and your Frigibaxes later on in the game, along with your Manife if you do play it, is very strong. On the other hand, the deck lost Cross Switcher, but gained Prime Catcher. Prime Catcher reads, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot, and then you switch one of your bench Pokemon into your active spot. This is essentially exactly what Cross Switchers did. However, Cross Switchers required you to play two copies of the card at once in order to use the effect. And so Prime Catcher, what it does is it clears up 3 additional spaces in your deck to use towards other things. Cross Switchers could be pretty clunky sometimes. If you just had one in your hand and you were unable to find another one, it kind of could clog up your hand so you weren't drawing as many cards with B-Barrel. And so Prime Catcher is extremely strong in this deck. Let's go ahead and move on to the Pokemon line that this deck list was playing. It's playing a very standard 3-2 Frigibax Excalibur line. One thing of note is that this deck list is playing all of the 60 HP Frigibaxes, which I think it's nice because it has that one retreat cost, and so you're able to get into your Chien-Pao early on with an attached retreat, which is a very strong move for the deck early on. However, if you're playing against any Sableye decks, any Lost Zone decks that use Sableye's Lost Mine attack, playing just 60 HP Frigibaxes can be very detrimental to your game plan, as if they go after your Excaliburs and there's a turn when you need to bench a couple Frigibaxes, they'll be able to knock out 2 Frigibaxes at once. So having one copy of a 70 HP Frigibax I think makes a lot of sense. Moving on, we have 3 copies of Chien-Pao EX. Again, pretty standard. Some lists may go down to 2, but it is your main attacker and the main way that you're going to take knockouts on big 2-price Pokemon such as Charizard EX or Lugia V-Star. And so having several copies in the deck makes a lot of sense. It's also the main way that you find energy with its Shivery Chill ability, allowing you to search your deck for 2 basic water energy and put them into your hand. And then you can combo finding these waters with Shivery Chill with your Radiant Greninja's Concealed Cards ability to draw additional cards. Radiant Greninja also has the Moonlight Shuriken attack, one of the strongest attacks that this deck has access to, allowing you to do 90 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. And so, since this is on a 1 prizer, allowing something that can take 2 prizes on low HP Pokemon can really help you out in the prize exchange. This deck list is playing a 2-3 line of B-Barrel, when before we were typically saying a 2-2 line instead. I think playing a 3rd copy of B-Barrel actually makes a ton of sense. If you prize a copy of Bidoof, you're not too sad as you play a copy of Hisuian Heavy Ball, so you're able to find it, no problem. But if you prize a B-Barrel, things can get a little awkward if you don't pull it off of the prizes early, as you have no way to find it in your prizes other than just taking knockouts and finding it that way. And so having access to more B-Barrels is good, because that's the main way that you protect yourself against getting IO'd in the late game, and the main way that you're going to be drawing cards throughout the game. This deck list is playing 1 copy of Manife. You play a couple low HP Pokemon. The Bidoofs, they protect themselves with their own ability, Carefree Countenance, protecting them from damage while they're on the bench. But your Frigibaxes, if there's a turn that you need to bench a couple of them in order to get a Bax Caliber established on your next turn, having a Manife down can be nice, and it just stops your opponent from taking 2 prizes with their own Radiant Greninja. Finally, we have 1 copy of Iron Handz X, one of the most powerful attackers that we have in the standard format, with its Amp You Very Much attack, allowing you to take 2 prizes if it takes a knockout. So we play 1 copy of Basic Lightning Energy in order to attack with it. It's another very strong card that allows you to have a favorable prize exchange. You can take a KO on a low HP Pokemon to take 2 prizes, or you can take a knockout on one of your opponent's supporting Pokemon, such as Lumineon V or Squawkabilly EX, thanks to their lightning weakness, allowing you to take 3 prizes at the end of a game to close it up. Moving on to the supporter lineup that this deck is playing, we have 4 copies of Irida. This is a staple in the Chien-Pao Baxcalibur deck. This is the main way that you'll be finding the pieces you need to, 1, get your board established, and 2, to find pieces at the end of the game in order to make your plays happen. Irida allows you to search your deck for a water Pokemon and an item card. And so early on, you'll be looking to either grab a Frigibax or your Radiant Greninja, or possibly a Chien-Pao EX. As well as it'll allow you to grab Buddy Pofin to establish some more Bidoofs or Frigibaxes. And then on the next couple turns, you could be looking to grab a Baxcalibur and a rare candy in order to establish your Baxcaliburs and its super cold ability, allowing you to attach as many water energies as you have in your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like. That's the main way that this deck gets attackers powered up. And so finding that Candy Baxcalibur is super important for the deck. And then at the end of the game, or even throughout the middle of the game, you can use it to find your one-of items, such as your Prime Catcher, your Canceling Cologne, or even just searching out your Superior Energy Retrievals, which are so crucial in order to keep this deck attacking. Moving on to the ball search, we have 4 copies of Buddy Pofin, 4 copies of Nest Ball, 4 copies of Ultra Ball, and 1 copy of Hisuian Heavy Ball. This deck list looks like it is just going for an ultra consistent build. It just wants to get set up and established so that way it can have its most powerful turns later on in the game. Ultra Balls are also very important for thinning out your hand in order to draw into more cards with B-Barrel, just so that way you can get your combos off. And we'll talk a little bit more about what combos we're looking to get off in a little bit. This deck also plays 4 copies of Superior Energy Retrieval. Superior Energy Retrieval allows you to get some energies back from your discard pile. Your 2 of your main attackers in Chien-Pao EX and Radiant Greninja both have to discard energy in order to use their attacks, and so you'll be needing to cycle energy from your discard back into your hand quite a lot in this deck. So 4 copies is a must. Another way that we can get energies back is our 2 copies of Super Rod. Super Rod allows you to shuffle up any combination of Pokemon and basic energy up to 3 from your discard pile back into your deck. And so you can choose to shuffle 2 water energies back in and find them with your Shivery Chill ability. As well, it allows you to recycle your one of attackers such as Raining Greninja and Iron Handz X. 3 rare candies, again, another staple in the deck. You need to be able to have a Baxcalibur in play pretty much at all points of this game. And so being able to just keep Baxcaliburs coming if your opponent's targeting them down is very important. So 3 rare candies there. Moving on to some of our one-of items, we have 1 copy of Earthen Vessel. This is the main way that we'll be finding the lightning energy in order to use Ampu very much. And it's, it's Era to searchable. And so, yeah, good way to just find that 1 lightning energy. And once you've found the lightning energy once, you can hold on to it either by attaching it to something or using concealed cards to discard it. So that way you can find it later with any of your superior energy retrievals. We have 1 copy of Canceling Cologne. Canceling Cologne, very important in this deck. This allows you to get probably the most powerful combo off in your deck, which is using your Prime Catcher to gust up Manife, your opponent's Manife, and using Canceling Cologne to turn its wave availability off, allowing you to take either a knockout on the Manife in one of your opponent's bench low HP Pokemon, or just keeping that Manife in the active and knocking out 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon, such as 2 Charmanders, or 2 Pidgeys, or 2 Ralts, 2 Minchinos. You have a lot of options with that Moonlight Shuriken attack, and Canceling Cologne unlocks it in case of a Manife. This deck list is also playing 1 copy of Counter Catcher. Counter Catcher is an additional gusting option in this deck. Like we were talking about before, with the rotation and losing your cross switchers, and having it replaced by Prime Catcher is mostly good. However, with only 1 copy of Prime Catcher means you can only get that Prime Catcher off once. And so when you could do cross switcher twice in a game, and so having 1 more copy of Gust makes a lot of sense. I think that just being able to gust a second time in this deck is very strong. And then we have 2 copies of Pokestop. Pokestop before rotation is typically a 4 of, as you need multiple outs to your opponent's path to the peak, which could stop your Shivery Chill and your Concealed Cards ability. And that's kind of like the backbone of how you cycle through your deck, thinning out the energies, drawing cards with the Greninja. And so right now, playing a lot of copies of that Pokestop is important. It's a little less important post-rotation when Path to the Peak rotates. However, the deck still plays numerous item cards, and so even seeing a couple more item cards per turn can be really helpful. For the energy count, we have a 9-1 split of Water Lightning. The 1 Lightning is all that's really needed for the Ampu very much. And 9 Water makes a lot of sense. You have some big HP Pokemon in the format, and if they elect to use the A-Spec Hero's Cape, you could have a Charizard with 430 HP on the board, and so you'll need a lot of water energy to take a knockout. And if you prize a couple of energy early on, 9 energy allows you to make sure that you still will have enough energies in deck to take some of those big KOs. Moving on, let's talk about the deck list that I've been testing myself. Overall, it's very similar to that City League winning deck list. Just a couple key changes which I will denote. We have a 3-3 line of the B-Barrel, taking that 2-3 line 1 step farther and saying, well, if I have my Bidoofs established and on the board, I'm going to be winning a lot of games. And so not needing to find that Super Rod to recycle a Bidoof can be a big deal early on in the game to just keep your Bidoofs established if your opponent's going after them. We're playing, instead of 2 copies of Cryptomaniacs, we're playing 1 copy and then 1 copy of Iono. Iono is just a very strong card overall. Hand Disruption is very powerful in the Pokemon trading card game, and so being able to disrupt your opponent's hand at the end of the game could cause them to miss having the key cards they need in order for them to win. We have 1 copy of Boss's Orders. We are playing this over the copy of the Counter Catcher that you saw in the other list. I feel like in a deck like this, it is oftentimes going to be ahead on the prize exchange, and so having a gusting option in your deck that doesn't require you to be behind on prizes is very powerful. And again, I think the deck really, really benefits from having 2 gusting options. And then finally, we are playing 3 copies of the Pokestop. Again, even though Path to the Peak is rotating and you don't need as many copies of Pokestop for Path to the Peak bumps, again, you still play a ton of items, and so just being able to find more items on any given turn is very strong in the deck. I think if I were to change something, I would maybe take a look at this 8 water energy count in case the Hero's Cape A-Spec does end up being more popular. I think playing that 9 water energy could make sense, but for now I think 8 is probably fine. And then finally, talking about a couple of cards that I don't have pictured here, you could choose to play a copy of Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle is a future water type Pokemon that when it's on your bench, you may discard it, and then your opponent has to switch their active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. Escape Rope rotates. It's basically half of an Escape Rope. This just allows you to have more flexibility in what you're taking knockouts on. Sometimes you don't want to knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. You'd rather knock out something on the bench, even anything else on the bench, but you'd rather not waste your Gust for it. So Iron Bundle is a good option. You could potentially push a 2-prizer to the bench, and if your opponent brings up a 1-prizer, allows you to take a knockout with Iron Handz X, or vice versa. If your opponent has their only 1-prizer on the board in their active spot, you could choose to Iron Bundle it to the bench and then take a 2-prize knockout with your Chien-Pao EX. Something else I've seen a lot of lists doing is playing multiple copies of Iono. Again, Iono, very strong card in the format, so playing 2 or even 3 copies of Iono in this deck list could make sense. Typically, you'll want to play the Irida early on, but Iono isn't terrible if that's the supporter you see on your first or second turn. Anyway, I hope that this video helped you think a little bit more about Chien-Pao Baxcalibur in the post-rotation format. If you can think of any cards that I didn't mention here that you think could be a good include, please feel free to comment them down below. And thanks again for tuning in to the Zero Lab. We'll catch you next time.